Chapter 6 Mirelle. Derek Kettering emerged from Van Alden's suite so precipitately that he collided with a lady passing across the corridor. He apologized, and she accepted his apologies with a smiling reassurance and passed on, leaving with him a pleasant impression of his soothing personality and rather fine grey eyes. For all his nonchalance, his interview with his father in law had shaken him more than he cared to show. He had a solitary lunch, and after it, frowning to himself a little, he went round to the sumptuous flat that housed the lady known as Mirelle. A trim French woman received him with smiles, but entered then, Monsieur, Madame reposes herself. He was ushered into the long room with its eastern setting, which he knew so well. Mirelle was lying on the divan, supported by an incredible number of cushions, all in varying shades of amber to harmonize with the yellow ores of her complexion. The dancer was a beautifully made woman, and if her face, beneath its mask of yellow, was in truth somewhat haggard, it had a bizarre charm of its own, and her orange lips smiled invitingly at Derek Kettering. He kissed her and flung himself into a chair. What have you been doing with yourself? Just got up, I suppose. The orange mouth widened into a long smile. No, said the dancer. I have been at work. She flung out a long, pale hand toward the piano, which was littered with untidy music scores. Ambrose has been there. He has been playing me the new opera. Kettering nodded without paying much attention. He was profoundly uninterested in Claude Ambrose and the latter's operatic setting of Ibsen's Peer Gynt. So was Mirelle, for that matter, regarding it merely as a unique opportunity for her own presentation as Anitra. It is a marvelous dance, she murmured. I shall put all the passion of the desert into it. I shall dance hung over with jewels. Ah, and by the way, mon ami, there is a pearl that I saw yesterday in Bond Street, a black pearl. She paused, looking at him invitingly. My dear girl, said Catherine, it's no use talking of black pearls to me. At the present minute, as far as I am concerned, the fat is in the fire. She was quick to respond to the stone. She sat up, her big black eyes widening. What is that you say, Derek? What has happened? My esteemed father-in-law, said Catherine, is preparing to go off deep end. Eh? In other words, he wants Ruth to divorce me. How stupid, said Mirelle. Why should she want to divorce you? Derek Kettering grinned. Mainly because of you, Cherry, he said. Mirelle shrugged her shoulders. That is foolish, she observed in a matter-of-fact voice. Very foolish, agreed Derek. What are you going to do about it? Demanded Mirelle. My dear girl, what can I do? On the one side, the man with unlimited money, on the other side, the man with unlimited debts. There is no question as to who will come up out on the top. They are extraordinary, these Americans, commented Mirelle. It is not as though your wife were fond of you. Well, said Derek, what are we going to do about it? She looked at him inquiringly. He came over and took both her hands in his. Are you going to stick to me? What do you mean? After? Yes, said Catherine. After when the creditors come down like wolves on the fold, I am damned fond of you. Mirelle, are you going to let me down? She pulled her hands away from him. You know I adore you, Derek. He caught the note of evasion in her voice. So that's that it. The rats will leave the sinking ship. Eh, Derek. Out with it, he said violently. You will fling me over. Is that it? She shrugged her shoulders. I'm very fond of you, mon ami. Indeed, I am fond of you. You're very charming. Un beau garçon, but si n'est pas pratiqué. You are a rich man's luxury. Is that it? If you like to put it that way. She leaned back on the cushions, her head flung back. All the same, I'm fond of you, Derek. He went over to the window and stood there some time looking out, with his back to her. Presently the dancer raised herself on her elbow and stared at him curiously. What are you thinking of, mon ami? He grinned at her over his shoulder, a curious grin that made her vaguely uneasy. As it happened, I was thinking of a woman, my dear. A woman, eh? Mirelle pounced on something that she could understand. You are thinking of some other woman, is that it? Oh, you need not worry, it is purely a fancy portrait. Portrait of a lady with great eyes. Mirelle said sharply, when did you meet her? Derek Kettering laughed, and his laughter had a mocking, ironical sound. I ran into the lady in the corridor of the Savvy Hotel. Well, what did she say? As far as I can remember, I said, I beg your pardon, and she said, it doesn't matter, on words to that effect. And then persisted the dancer. Catherine shrugged her shoulders. And then nothing. That was the end of the incident. I don't understand a word of what you are talking about, declared the dancer. Portrait of a lady with great eyes, murmured Derek reflectively. Just as well as I am never likely to meet her again. Why? She might bring me bad luck, women do. Mirelle slipped quietly from her couch and came across to him, laying one long, snake like arm round his neck. You are foolish, Derek, she murmured. You are very foolish. You are Beau Garcon, and I adore you. But I am not made to be poor. No, decidedly, I am not made to be poor. Now listen to me. Everything is very simple. You must make it up with your wife. I am afraid that's not going to be actually in the sphere of practical politics, said Derek drily. How do you say? I do not understand. Van Alden, my dear, is not taking any. He is the kind of man who makes up his mind and sticks to it. I have heard of him, nodded the dancer. He is very rich, is he not? Almost the richest man in America. A few days ago, in Paris, he bought the most wonderful ruby in the world. Heart of Fire, it is called. Catherine did not answer. The dancer went on musingly. It is a wonderful stone, a stone that should belong to women like me. I love jewels, Derek. They say something to me. Ah, to wear a ruby like Heart of Fire. She gave a little sigh and then became practical once more. You don't understand these things, Derek. You are only a man. Van Alden will give these rubies to his daughter, I suppose. Is she his only child? Yes. Then when he dies, she will inherit all his money. She will be a rich woman. She is a rich woman already, said Catherine dryly. He settled a couple of millions on her at her marriage. A couple of millions? But that is immense. And if you died suddenly, that would all come to you. As things stand at present, said Catherine slowly, it would. As far as I know, she has not made a will. Mon Dieu, said the dancer, if she were to die, what a solution that would be. There was a moment's pause, and Derek Kettering laughed outright. I like you simple, practical mind, Mirelle, but I am afraid what you desire won't come to pass. My wife is an extremely healthy person. Eh bien, said Mirelle, there are accidents. He looked at her sharply, but did not answer. She went on. But you are right, mon ami. We just not dwell on possibility. See now, my little Derek, there must be no more talk of this divorce. Your wife must give up the idea. And if she won't? The dancer's eyes narrowed to slits. I think she will, my friend. She is one of those who would not like the publicity. There are one or two pretty stories that she would not like her friends to read in the newspaper. What do you mean? Asked Catherine sharply. Mirella laughed, her head thrown back. Pablo, I mean the gentleman who calls himself the Comte de la Roche. I know all about him. I'm Persian, you remember? He was her lover before she married you, was he not? Catherine took her sharply by the shoulders. That is a damned lie, he said. And please remember that, after all, you are speaking of my wife. Merle was a little sobered. You are extraordinary, you English? She complained. All the same, I dare say that you may be right. The Americans are so cold, are they not? But you will permit me to say, mon ami, that she was in love with him before she married you. And her father stepped in and sent the Comte about his business. And the little Madame Slay, wept many tears, but she obeyed. Still, you must know as well as I do, Derek, that it is a very different story now. She sees him nearly every day, and on the 14th she goes to Paris to meet him. How do you know all this? Demanded Catherine. Me, I have friends in Paris, my dear Derek, who know the Comte intimately. It is all arranged. She is going to the Riviera, so she says, but in reality, the Comte meets her in Paris, and who knows? Yes, yes, you can take my word for it. It is all arranged. Derek Kettering stood motionless. You see, purred the dancer, if you are clever, you have her in the hollow of your hand. You can make things very awkward for her. Oh, for God's sake, be quiet, cried Kettering. Shut your crush mouth. Millet flung herself down on the divan with a laugh. Kettering caught up his hat and coat and left the flat, banging the door violently. And still the dancer sat on the divan and laughed softly to herself. She was not displeased with her work.